Uh, my name is Raul, and I'm coming from Western Kentucky. I'm located in Princeton, so in that area also they're planting some hemp, and we probably have similar kind of issues. Um, we're going to do a tag team. Dr. Bessing is going to talk about the insecticides or the products that you can use for controlling some of the insects we have in hemp, and I'm going to describe some of the issues that you have. I have some posters there, and we can talk later. I'm going to stay for a while. And on hemp, we have some issues related with insects that affect the foliage, the flower, and even the roots. In addition to that, we have some insects that come from the transplants and some mites that also move with, from the greenhouses. And in this case, we have some plants here at the beginning of this row that maybe have some infestations of broad mites or rust mites at the beginning. So one of the issues with these two types of mites is that they can be moved from what heavy infestations that they have on the greenhouse, and they cause some kind of leaf distortions. As you can see here, if you come close by later, you can see that kind of leaf distortions. So those leaf distortions are very similar for both species. So they're very hard to separate the symptoms from them. But for that, one thing that I would recommend is to buy magnifier lenses. How many of you have this one or the small ones? How many? So that's an investment that you can do. Even right now, there is some electronic magnifier lenses that they go up to 60 times magnification, and you can buy that only for $5 in Amazon. So that's very easy, a very hard way to do that. So in hemp, as I mentioned before, we have several insects. In Colorado, they have described many of those insects. And one of the most probably problematic can be the European hemp caterpillar. So far, we haven't found that in Kentucky. But one of the insects that also is probably one of the problematics is the hemp aphid. So that one was found in Kentucky in several locations. Dr. Bessing found in Lexington. I don't know, from samples probably surrounding Lexington.
From the research farm.
Okay, and I found in Western Kentucky from a farm. So that's another pest that usually comes from your transplants. So if you don't have greenhouses but you're buying plants, you are going to have some issues with that insect. So the description of this insect is there. Again, for that you need to magnify lenses to identify some of the characteristics of that one. Okay. In addition to that, I was yesterday on the farm on Kentucky, on the University of Kentucky, and we have some serious issues with June bugs and Japanese beetles. So these are insects that are not in the western USA yet, but it's here. It seems that they're causing a big, serious problem. Rick probably is going to tell you what can you use for those ones. Maybe not yet, but we are in our beginning of our research situations. Actually, this is my first year. Right now, what I'm doing, I'm collecting insects, and I'm going to see what you have in the field. So another insect that you have in hemp, and I found 3 of these larvae. This is the tiger moth larvae. I can pass this, and you can see them. This is one that maybe have an issue. It's a foliage feeder. I don't know how much damage they can do, but that's also described in Colorado. So, and it's common in all the USA. So another insect that was very abundant as a plant, a tarnished plant bug. This is an insect that suck the uses of the plants, and it's very common in many field crops. So field crops, vegetables, weeds. So I don't know yet, or we don't know yet, what kind of damage they can cause into hemp, but that's an issue that we also need to evaluate later on. So in addition to that, I observed that there are some predators, some natural enemies on hemp, and we need to right now. The only way we can do probably is try to increase those natural enemies, ladybugs, maybe parasitoids, or even some predators. So the question before was how to do with these areas that you don't have you have weeds. Maybe we can plant some buckwheat. Buckwheat, it's a very good flowering plant that can increase the number of Hymenopterans, and they can probably pass to you. The other plant is maybe clover. Clover also is a good cover crop, and then you can have flowers. And in addition to that, increase the fertility of your fields. So, in addition to that, I think so. We also have some sting bugs. So we have the brown marmorated sting bug that is affecting hemp. We have the brown sting bug, and also we are going to we are seeing also some kind of worms that I'm not sure what are they there. So I found also an inchworm yesterday, and in the same field I saw some cloudy moths that were flying there. I'm not so sure this is related to those cloudy moths, but we don't know yet. Also beetles. I saw some cucumber beetles, some flea beetles, and also so those ones are probably the most common on this field yesterday. And even here, there's some leaf hoppers that are sucking the juices of your plants, but probably we need to wait one more year still to see what's going to happen. And again, I want to say, so we have a lot of natural enemies. We have the sweat flies or the corn flies that you have here that come while we are here and then stick to your body because they're trying to take your salts. Those are beneficials. So the immature forms, they are kind of small worms that they feed on aphids and other whiteflies and other kind of pests. So Rick.
Thank you, Raul. So I was going to talk to you about pesticides. Am I too loud? Okay. Right, it's a work in progress right now with pesticides in hemp. There are 3 different things that need to be approved for you to use pesticides on hemp. 1, it has to meet the federal regulations. It has to meet the state regulations, and it has to meet what your buyer will accept. And those can be 3 different things, but it has to comply with each of those levels. Now, in terms of federal regulation or federal approval of pesticides, that process is a slow and deliberate process. You know, if everything goes well, it takes about 3 years to get something federally registered. Sometimes it goes a little faster. You might have 6 months. You can knock off that. Sometimes it takes a little longer. Then the next step would actually getting it on the pesticide label. And that might take another year as well. So it takes 3 to 4 years to get things federally registered. But once they're federally registered, pretty much you have it forever. I mean, that's permanent. That's the gold standard for getting these pesticides approved. Now, we do have some things that are being researched, and the process has begun with some things. There's a program called the IR4 program, and it helps to register pesticides on minor use crops. And a minor use crop is anything that's on less than 500,000 acres in the United States. And we have some projects going on. We have one in Lexington. There's another one in North Carolina where they're evaluating herbicides for use on hemp. But again, that's going to take several years. We're also doing some things at the state level. So about 10 days ago, the Kentucky Department of Agriculture issued their policy. It's on their website about what can be used on hemp, and there are a handful of products. They're ones that have exemptions from tolerance. They're generally regarded as safe products. A lot of these are botanically derived, but we have a handful of fungicides, a handful of insecticides, and a handful of herbicides that are available. I can tell you with a lot of the insecticides they have approved, and it's only about 8. A lot of those we've not researched in the past. They're things like, peppermint oil, rosemary oil, cottonseed oil, some things like that. That list is going to change. I know I'm sending emails almost daily to the KDA saying, what about this? This has a tolerance exemption. And so you may see in the next week, month, this summer, that there's a number of things that get added to that list. So that list on the KDA website will change over time as we get some products that become available. But even if something does become available, make certain whoever's buying your hemp will allow that to be used on your hemp. I mean, that's just as much a consideration as whether or not you're legally allowed to use it as well. So be careful with pesticide use. Tom Keene mentioned that in 10 years, this field would look different. I would say in 10 years, one of the things you're going to have, you won't have these weeds out in the field. Because by that time, we'll have those tools. This is a work in progress. We're behind in terms of the research because we haven't been able to do that before. But we're hoping in the coming years, we're going to have the tools necessary where you can grow crops more consistently with fewer pest problems, both diseases, insects, and weeds. Any questions about pesticides? I got one more thing I was going to say. When it comes to the KDA, they had some criteria about who could use these pesticides on their website. First of all, if you're growing hemp and if you want to use one of the products that's on their website, you have to be a certified pesticide applicator. You either have to be a private applicator or a commercial applicator. The products that are currently on the website have to be what they are called 25B exempted materials. And so that has to do with the Federal Pesticide Act, and that's a specific category of exemptions that they're allowing right now. You need to make sure that your buyer is going to accept those materials, and you need to follow those directions on the label. We have to follow the directions in terms of getting the right application rates, pre-harvest intervals, and things like that exist on it.